Hello and welcome. This video is for people that have been questioning whether or not you're becoming conscious. There's a lot of talk in media and amongst friends about consciousness, about manifestation, even to the point to where there's tapes like Brain Sync Project, Gateway, and so on. And I would like to just assure you that if you're questioning whether or not you're gaining consciousness, the first thing you need to know is yes, you are. If you're simply even asking the question, you're beginning to gain consciousness. You're beginning to wake up. So please do not let negative people around you that are not at the level of consciousness that you are to persuade you to think that you're not, or to persuade you to think that you're going crazy or you're having a nervous breakdown or so on. Because I can assure you, over the last year and a half, I've experienced about everything a person could as far as having your family members or, police or government, even to the extent of the hospital, try to assume that I was mentally ill simply because I was rising to a higher level of consciousness. Now, within my channel, I have made close to 365 videos now over the last year and a half. And it all started, well, a year and a half ago when I made a decision to, no matter what the cost, to give love to somebody that was doing everything she could to destroy my life. I do not want to get into, the negative, because in my mind, in my existence, the negative that took place no longer exists. But I will share a little bit with you just so that you can understand that you're not alone. A year and a half ago, like I said, I chose to give love to somebody that was doing everything she could to destroy my life because I was a tattoo artist and I happened to be exposed to a lot of um, naked women, if you will, tattooing. Therefore, her insecurities made her start assuming things that weren't true. Um, and it got to the point to where she'd hacked into my accounts, yada, yada, yada. But when I chose to just give love and try to understand where she was coming from, was because as it was all coming down, something inside me said, you cannot argue with somebody who is temporarily mentally ill or mentally unstable. Remember that. If somebody is angry with you, if somebody is arguing with you, if somebody is projecting a tremendous amount of negativity towards you, they're not in a healthy mental state. Therefore, you fighting back or arguing with them lowers you down to their level. Because the truth is, they're in the left side of their brain at that moment. They're not, filling with love. They're not filling with their soul. They're filling with their protective side, their methodical side, their angry side, the left side of the brain. And it got to the point to where there were two attempts on my life, and even the local police department felt that, oh, I must be having PTSD because I had recently um, had served over in Ukraine as a volunteer on the front line. So my family, the local police department, the local medical facility, all felt that I was mentally ill, suffering severe PTSD or so on. But interesting thing about PTSD is it's considered non-curable. So why would anybody in the world ever even use the term PTSD? Because how can anybody ever say it's non-curable? The only person who decides your future, your existence, your happiness, your truths is you. And how do you find those truths? Well, you learn how to purge all the negative from within your brain and you listen with your soul. So, a year and a half ago, as these Attempts on my life took place. The police department turned their back on me. Medical facility turned their back on me. My family, actually, the ones I love, actually tried to get control of my assets. And instead of getting angry, instead of getting defensive, I decided that the positive thing about it is I was reaching a higher level of consciousness than they were able to comprehend. In all actuality, they were doing me a favor because it was pushing me to remove myself from being exposed to these negative vibrations, if you will, and begin my journey. Begin my journey to reach what is considered full spectrum consciousness. Now, as you, majority of you that are watching this, you've probably already started experiencing things that you felt like, wow, how could I know that? Or that just doesn't seem right. So your natural instinct is going to be the left side of your brain is going to assume that you're losing it. You know, that there's something wrong with you. And then you might happen to mention it to a friend or a family member, and they're not going to say positive things. They're going to tell you to keep it to yourself, or that, yeah, you might seek a counselor and so on. Well, realize that over 80% of counselors have diagnosed mental health issues. Proven fact, look it up online, you can find it. Anything I say, you can research online and you'll see that I'm actually speaking the truth. And things that I've already mentioned, you can even look through my channel and verify that this is true. Now, I am starting to unlist videos throughout my channel that contained me going through the process of purging all the negative within my life, getting rid of all the negative vibrations that I was being exposed to and negative attachments. And that actually required me to sell off my paid off home, sell off my tattooing business, and I literally gave away hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of my personal possessions because I started realizing those do not matter. If you think about it, you come in this world by yourself. You go out of this world by yourself. The only possible thing that you could take with you is your spirit. I mean, after all, it is called spirituality, you know, and as I got rid of all these, I started feeling more and more empowered. But I also felt dazed. You know, if I would have listened to anybody around me, they would have been able to convince me that I was, you know, suffering PTSD or bipolar or so on. But the day that I chose to give love to the person that was trying to destroy, you know, what I thought was important to me, that day I instantly just had this knowing with my whole being. And what it was what kept spinning through my head over and over and over again. And honestly, the only place it could have came from was within my spirit, if you will. And that was, you must recognize the negative in your life and within your brain. You must find the positive that could have taken place from that negative experience. And once you do that, the negative can recognize itself, and then all things become positive. And I assure you that for every one negative experience that you've had in your life, you can come up with at least 7 positive truths, because the only thing that exists in reality is positive, because that's the one perception or prospective that we can all agree on. So I sold off everything. I started traveling around the United States, helping homeless, helping mentally ill people, or what society considers mentally ill. And then once I circumnavigated the United States, I left and I went to Israel because I was on a spiritual journey, and I figured there's no better place to start than what is considered the Holy Land. Oh, by the way, the lights behind me, I'm sorry for it. I can't explain it. I've tried a ton of different lighting and so on, If you look through my past videos, you'll see lighting acts very strange around me. You'll see me in front of this exact same spot where the lighting actually moves really slow and changes directions the way it goes up and down. I know what it is. It's not a trick. It's not a, technical issue or anything like that. It's what you could say aura. And there's going to be enough people that will disagree with that. That's only because you're speaking or thinking with the left side of your brain instead of acknowledging, the truth and the reality behind it. To the point to where I've posted a video in the past of the world's first proof of, you could call it astral projection, where all the energy left my body, hovered behind me, and then re-entered. And I recorded with a thermal monocular that I used in Ukraine. Interesting thing is, it's been up for a year and a half. And the average mind cannot even acknowledge what they're seeing. And that's because the left side of the brain is trying to protect them. In the very beginning, somebody told me, they said, the world is not ready for this. The world can't handle these truths. And I looked at that person and I said, that's true. I agree with you. But that does not stop me from having the responsibility of doing everything I can to try to reach out to somebody that needs to hear what I'm saying. And I'm not doing it for me. The history of my channel, I've never asked somebody to subscribe. I've never asked them to like, dislike, or comment. I've thanked them. But you know what's interesting is out of so many videos, I've had thousands and thousands of views, on my channel, thousands of hours my videos have been watched, and only a handful of comments and only a handful of likes or dislikes. And the reason why that is the truths that I will speak scare people, because the brain is now starting to question itself. Just like those of you that are beginning to wake up, you've experienced that. You have experienced a tingling throughout your body, as if there's been a slight electrical current flowing all over your entire body. That's normal. If you've experienced a buzzing in your ear, or like a little tap, 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 tap sound that you've heard that you can't explain, that's normal. Don't try to turn to a medical professional and have them tell you what it is. They'll give you a ton of negative reasons why, from high blood pressure to, delusions or so on. But the truth is, you're actually becoming less and less delusional. You're starting to realize that majority of our thought is an illusion, and where that illusion came from was through ancestral memory. If you stop and think about it, clear back to the caveman days, they were exposed to dangers. They taught those children those dangers. Those children taught their children those dangers. Now we get to your current generation, and imagine the amount of negativity that has been taught to your brain, not because anybody meant any harm, but instead to protect you. And that's the truth behind the way the brain works, is your brain is holding on to all those negative memories in the front of your brain. The quickest memories you can pull up are the negative ones, and they're the strongest. Why is that? Well, it's because the non-conscious part of your brain is trying to protect you. Because it knows it has to do everything it can until we choose to wake up. We choose to find the truths. So I left the United States, and first place I went to Israel. And I spent a couple weeks there and went to Jerusalem. I did the whole experience. And 2 days before I left, I just started getting this overwhelming feeling that was not the place for me to be. That there was nothing for me to gain by re-experiencing what I refer to Son of Man went through. It just kept over and over and over. Now, when I went to where he was crucified, everybody's snapping pictures. Everybody's, in front of the tomb, snapping pictures of themselves, sending them and posting them on Facebook. I had no desire to do that. All I did was I wept because I could feel in my soul the pain that Son of Man had to have been feeling, because all he wanted to do more than anything was to teach people how to wake up. We have, over history, we have had so many religions come about. And the truth is, every single religion has a tremendous amount of truth. Every single religion boils down to talking about the spirit within. Christianity talks about the Holy Spirit. Every single religion, even high magic, even paganism, every single, you look at Native American, religion, Buddhism, all of them are talking about the spirit within. We're so busy and so caught up on trying to make, biblical writings, religious scriptures, material. The ones who made it material were the scribes and the religious leaders. Take Buddhism, for example. If you go way back in the original Buddhism, Buddha says very clearly, do not worship me. I'm nothing to be worshiped. But now, people worship him every day. I happen to currently be in Thailand, and every time somebody walks by a Buddha statue, they pray to it. You go to a Christian church. What do you have? You have a big, huge crucifix filling the sorrow of the physical aspect. But the truth is, Son of Man made it extremely clear. Do not trust the scribes or the religious leaders, to the point of calling them brood of vipers. He tells you that, hey, if you're going to pray, go into the closet, close the door, do it by yourself. Sure, you can say, oh, well, it talks about church. First off, the only words you can accept is 100% truth, or the exact words of Son of Man, and in the Old Testament of what he refers to himself as, I am. As I have traveled around and I've studied with shamans, I've studied Buddhists, I've studied even some high magic and so on. I haven't worshipped it. I've studied it. I've learned it. Because one thing, as you start gaining your consciousness, you realize there's pieces of the puzzle that you need to get by being truthful with yourself, by having an open mind, not a closed mind, in finding your absolute truths. I cannot tell you what your absolute truths are, but I can tell you how to find them. Over the last, several months, I've been speaking less and less. I've been concentrating more on helping decipher. I've used mathematics. I've used all aspects of science to prove the truths within religious writings. And as much as, say, a person who bases their belief system off of science wants to feel that you can't prove, the presence of a spirit, my friend, stop and think about what you're saying. So you're saying that your ancestors that were warriors, that were on the front line knowing that they were going to die, but still had the courage and still had the spirit enough to do what they had to do to protect you. Or when your parents have sacrificed, that they had that spirit within them to try to give you as much love as they possibly could. I recently said to somebody that, claims they're atheist. And I started pointing out the spirit. And I said, now, if you believe there is no spirit, then when you hear that somebody recently committed suicide, does it not bother you? Can you not feel that deep in your soul, if you will, that just love and sorrow? Or do you feel that they were feeling sorry for themselves? Because if you feel that way, you need to check your own spirit. Because if you truly feel spirit does not exist, then what you're saying is there is no reason for any good, that it's all pointless, that it all means nothing, and you're very, very deep into the dark. So you might want to turn some lights on and start figuring out the truths. Even if it's simply a matter of looking in my videos, because I literally take the book of Genesis. I use mathematics, I use science, and I prove that the first 2 chapters of book of Genesis are literally the blueprints for the human creation, and second chapter tells us the purpose behind our physical life experience. The only reason why we view, when it talks about the creation of heaven and earth, as physical earth and heaven, is because the scribes, Moses, wrote it from a physical perspective, even to the point to where he changes the words of I am to put them in his own, perspective. For example, I am says that let us make them in our image. Moses changes it to his image. Why? Because Moses was not conscious. He was writing using the left side of his brain. Son of Man, the absolute truth is the spirit of Son of Man was here as the mediator to teach us how to find the truths within all doctrines. And when I say within all doctrines, I mean all religions. Think about who he was trying to help the most. The ones ultimately that wanted him crucified. So how can we not step back and realize the one human being in existence that knowingly allowed himself to be killed just to get us to wake up enough to find our own truths, to wake up enough and realize that Genesis, what it's describing, is actually exactly describing the creation of our mind, the creation of our brain, to a point where it talks about the firmament in between the 2 sides of the brain. It talks about the 4 ventricles, which are the rivers leaving from the Garden of Eden. There's 6 sections to the brain. The Bible even says that the number 6 is the number of man. I mean, it is so blatantly obvious if you're willing to just step back, have no fear, and look at the truths and realize every single thing that was said from I am, or you can call it, I am God, or whatever you choose, Yahshua, or you Buddha, or whatever. Whatever doctrine you look at, stop and think. It is not a physical doctrine. This is a spiritual entity speaking to you. It is your brain, and at the help of the scribes and the religious leaders that have made it a physical issue. Son of Man goes to the extent of telling you, watch out for people who are wearing the robes, who come up with the long prayers and so on. But yet, instead of reading for herself and actually listening to the words that I am said and that Son of Man said, we'll go online and we'll Google the meaning behind, say, Genesis 1:1. Why in the world would you look up the meaning behind instead of deciding what it is yourself? You're taking somebody offline who is giving you their own opinion that was developed from teachings generation after generation after generation from non-conscious people. I could keep going on for hours and hours. I mean, I have. You don't develop this many videos just on a whim. But one thing I have learned without a doubt, is I cannot wake up anybody that is not ready. You know, I have had a couple people that over the last year and a half, oh, that they're right on my heels. You know, they recognize exactly what's going on, and we are hitting like a spark plug firing. Why? Because it's true, not because we're both delusional. And so when I was at Jerusalem, kept having that overwhelming feeling, just knowing in my soul that that was not the place for me to be. So I just randomly decided, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go somewhere else in the world. A couple days later, right exactly where I was at in Jerusalem, the war started. You can think that, oh, coincidence. Well, there is no coincidences in reality. I mean, think about it. Reality, if it's there, it's there. It's not a coincidence. How can you say anything is a coincidence? What are you basing a coincidence off of? Non-reality? I mean, it's basic common sense, right? So I left there and I ended up going to the Philippines because my first wife was from the Philippines, and I just wanted to put amends to the pain that I had experienced in my past, and I wanted to give love to locals. Give to the extremely poverty-stricken locals. I wanted to give them food and anything I could do to help. And while I was there, I decided to go to a Catholic church, the oldest Catholic church, in the Philippines. And I go in there. It's midday. It's at noon, and I'm looking at the crucifix and I'm looking around and admiring the architecture because I'm a prior engineer. And I look up at the ceiling, and you would not believe it, but there were thousands of bats hanging from the ceiling. I mean, past video proves it. Hanging from the ceiling midday, and they were awake. They were all just looking down. And the local person that showed me where this church was and took me there, they screamed, and they got out and they started praying, and they're like, no, that's a very bad sign. And to me, I didn't see it as a bad sign. I actually saw it as a good sign. Good sign is that I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to recognize what the average person who seeks consciousness calls manifestation. And the truth is, all these videotapes are going to tell you how to manifest, the $1 million that you deserve, or how to manifest your new car. I even had people ask me, hey, how can I manifest my perfect wife? Manifestation is an illusion, because once you're awake, it's all right in front of you. Exactly the best you could possibly have is right in front of you. You just are not able to see it until you wake up. This manifestation is just like global warming, that people are making a tremendous amount of money off it. Even when it comes to websites like Bible Hub or all these different biblical websites that you can go on, try it. You're going to see ads that pop up. I saw one from Alibaba on the Bible Hub, or the Bible Gate, or whatever it's called. Alibaba's advertisement pops up, and it shows naked female genitalia and the results from bleaching cream used on that, on a biblical website. So please stop and step back and realize that anytime somebody is trying to charge you money to help you wake up, to help you gain consciousness, they are not your friend. They have selfish motive. This is why they're doing it. Because anybody in existence that is fully conscious knows that it is horrible. if you were to try to charge or make a profit or any financial gain off telling the truth. Next thing, as you continue to wake up, you will have some physical changes. You know, I had some pretty extreme physical changes that took place. If the local medical facility hadn't treated me the way they had, um, I might have went back in and they would have convinced me that something was wrong with me, because my blood pressure was over 200. Well, it was like 210 over 160, which I should have been dead. I should have stroked out. But I started feeling that if this is the truth, I believe. I believe that everything happens exactly how it's meant to be. All things are positive. You'll see it too when you choose to wake up. And I let it ride. And hey, I still, for example, like right now when I'm talking from my heart, obviously I have no script, and I'm talking from my heart, I see the blood pressure in my face increases tremendously. My legs start getting ice cold. My hands get bright red. Yes, my blood pressure increases. It's not because I have heart disease or anything like that. It's because once you wake up, the important areas that need the blood flow start getting priority. Anybody who's gone through a tremendously long tattooing session, you know that your body starts shutting down non-essential organs, non-essential limbs. Your legs, your arms will start getting ice cold before you pass out. Your body will protect you because your body will provide the blood flow exactly where it needs to be. This is why I have a lot of blood flow going to my head right now, because in order for you to override the negative side of your brain, you know, the anger side, the methodical and all this, and concentrate on having the right side of your brain dominate, it does take a lot of oxygen to get up there. And in past videos, I've even shown scientific proof that Genesis is what it's saying is exactly true, that there's even a tree of life within the brain. There's the pineal gland. There is an actual firmament between the two sides of the brain. Incredibly easy to find. But nobody has been looking for the positive to prove that the spirit exists. Everybody wants to deny that the spirit exists out of fear. But what's very interesting, of all things Son of Man said, one thing he said literally 365 times. He said, have no fear. Because the fear, just like all the negative that your parents have taught you in order to protect you, the fear is what's holding you back from gaining your consciousness. Now, at the end of this video, I finish up Genesis 2, and I've highlighted truths. I put, you know, absolute truths behind it. You can choose to look for negative. You can choose to disagree. You can choose to try to find somebody to say that's nonsense. Okay, but the truth is, absolutely nobody can prove what I'm saying is not to be true. And nobody will have the gall or the courage enough to comment and try to scientifically prove or religiously prove. But if you are going to go at you know, projecting negativity towards the things I have said, you better make sure that you know what you're talking about. And you better make sure that you're using the words of I am or Son of Man, and not the words of scribes or religious leaders, because we have been so clearly warned not to do that. And I'll be doing some here recently, I'll be putting up some videos that are, you've heard of the pineal gland by now, I'm sure, and decalcification of the pineal gland. Well, through meditation, I have had these, call them whatever you will. I just saw things that I will share with you. One of them happens to be, I was meditating and floating right in front of me, clear as day, like I could literally touch it. And actually, I reached out and grabbed it with my hand, and I could actually feel it. Was this orb of water that was floating in the air, but it didn't just all of a sudden appear there. It's like steam from the air just slowly started collecting to the center, and then it's just kind of wobbly and floating in front of me. And I start looking closely in it, and I see fish swimming around it and inside the center of the water orb. And they come to me and they just stare at me, and they're very peaceful and just swimming around. And yes, they were, coincidentally, you could say, angelfish. And as I looked at it, I looked around in the room and I saw the presence of 6 other people. I couldn't see their face, but I could feel them there. I knew they were there. I knew that we were all sitting around a table, that this was very real. And they didn't really say much. They just agreed with everything I thought. So I have, surprisingly enough, I've been able to recreate what I saw for you. And in the future, when I post these videos for, I'll call them like pineal gland decalcification, and I'll tell you exactly how to use them. One of them is simply 2 colors. And what I will do is I will show you how to start taking control of your left and right side of your brain. How you'll be able to distinguish that there is a difference between the two. And you'll do it with your eyes closed. You will see things that nobody else in the world has ever pointed out. Not because I think I'm anything special. I'm not above you. I'm not below you. I simply am what I am. And the truth is, if you choose to find all the positive good within you, all the positive good is one. But I proved this through scientifically, through light. I am able to use science to prove to you that all the negative experiences that that take place within our physical existence are here to teach us. It goes to the most basic, principle behind creating energy. In order to create energy, you have positive and negative molecules, and they have to collide. That collision is what creates energy. And one of the purest forms of energy, the purest form of energy, scientists might try to debate this, but I can prove it's wrong, is light. Just so happens the Bible says the same thing. And we know that everything in existence is vibration, at a certain frequency. And I even use science from that perspective to prove that, okay, the soul does exist. But I can't, force anybody to watch the videos. I can't force anybody to listen to what I have to say. And the reason I've been able to have the strength to keep going on and doing what I'm doing is because in the very beginning of this channel, I knew it would play out exactly like this. I even said at the very beginning, I know how this story goes. How do I know? Because it's already happened, and every non-conscious person is the one writing this story. And here we are a year and a half later, and that is, I guess you could say, dead on. But I'm sure by now you're tired of listening to me. the truth is, the average person will have not made it past the first minute and a half. Great thing about having a YouTube channel is I can see the demographics, I can see the gender, I can see the age, I can see how people found the videos, I can see every ounce of information I need to know to recognize how conscious our society is. And I pointed that out in the very beginning too. I said that my channel would be kind of like the fuel gauge on how close we are to running out of fuel. And you know what? The low fuel light has been on for a year and a half. But I just want you guys to know that those of you that are waking up, hey, that's amazing. Don't think it's negative. Don't think it's scary. Don't think anything bad. Because if you only accept the positive of what you're going through and realize that the more you wake up, the more you're becoming pure truth. That is absolutely amazing, and nobody can take it away from you. One person asked, I think I astral projected, how do I know if I have? The truth is, if you think you have astral projected, then you have. But thank you if you've made it all the way, to this point in the video. Thank you for listening. Please, don't do it for me. Don't do it for my channel. I'm not asking you to subscribe. I'm not asking you to click, like, dislike, because I don't want anything from you. I want to help you. I want to give you love. I want to give you wisdom so that you can gain your own consciousness. And I literally have nothing to gain off this other than what Son of Man gained by having his 12 disciples. And honestly, what God is gaining, or I am is gaining by all of us, wisdom. Because one of the absolute best ways to know the truth is to teach. Anyway, you guys may peace be with you, and don't be creeped out by somebody telling you that I love you, but I do love you. And I love you not from the Hollywood perspective, but I love you from the perspective of I empathize with what you're going through. I've gone through it. I know that if you have the courage, if you have the strength to keep pushing through it, and realize that nothing material gained is going to do you any good towards gaining your consciousness. And those of you that are listening that know that things are changing rather quickly. I mean, every single one of us should know within our spirit that things are about ready to get very serious. But if you have a question, feel free to comment. There's nothing in this world you could possibly ask that I would be offended by. And truthfully, there's nothing in this world that you could say towards me that would offend me, because I know the truth, and I will respond back to your negative projections, if you will, in a way that you won't even be able to argue with. Because if you read real closely to the words of Son of Man, and if you read the book of Revelations, it says, like a double-edged sword. His words from his mouth are like a double-edged sword. You know why? Because it's 100% pure truth. And when you speak 100% absolute truth within the spirit, nobody has any defense if they try to attack you. I hope you have a great night, and please, if there's anything I can do to help, please reach out. All I want to do is help. Bye-bye.